All right, welcome. So, most coaches and leaders don't fail because they lack a passion or a skill for coaching and leading. They fail because they never forged the identity that's required to lead. And even when they do have the right heart, even the right mindset, they're often missing a real solid system that supports their success. So, in this live stream and in this video training, I'm going to reveal real reasons that many would-be leaders actually never rise. And I'm going to tell you how you can forge the leadership identity and the support system that you need that's going to carry your purpose forward into power. I'm going to dive deep into 4 sets of distinctions. And in these distinctions, you're going to learn the untold truth, why coaches and leaders fail. In distinction number 1, we're going to explore the most fundamental premise from which I'm operating all the time. Perception precedes performance, production, and profits. Distinction number 2 is the 5 misperceptions of leadership. Distinction number 3 is the 5 levels of leadership. And then distinction number 4, the 7 phases of leadership. So I've walked this path. This is what's given me all of this set of distinction understanding that I'm about to deliver to you here. We're going to practice it. We're going to embody it. We're going to explore it intimately. We're going to get it woven into every cell, every tissue, every organ of your being. Okay, we want this to be transformative and empowering for you. I've already trained countless coaches and leaders who were ready to rise, but they didn't first realize that a dissension was going to be needed. Now, the dissension is this unwanted part of the journey, but it's the most critical. And I'm going to explore what the dissension looks like. It's not a bad thing if we're prepared for it. We can embrace it in advance. But if we don't know what's coming on the path to leadership, on the path forward to coaching successfully, it can actually be extremely challenging for us, and we can be turned away completely from our dream and never even fulfill it. Some people will pass away. They'll reach the grave and never have passed through these phases of leadership, or the 5 levels of leadership will never be attained or move through powerfully because they didn't know what they were, and there was misinterpretation all along the way. And so we're going to talk all about that and break through right here with me while you're working through the process as I deliver the distinctions and guide you through it. So the dissension part that I was mentioning earlier is this unwanted part of the journey, but it's the most critical part, right? And in this training, I'm going to give you a map back to the truth, because there's these unconscious lies that we're holding as if they are true that get in our way and they cause us to misperceive. And I'm going to share that with you as we move forward. So if you stay to the end, I'm going to be delivering a very special guided activation to help you embody the wisdom that's delivered throughout this training. Unless the seeds that I'm sowing here sink deep into the soil of your conscious and subconscious mind and body and get plenty of water, they're not going to sprout and take root. The embodiment activation that I'll be sharing at the end is going to ensure that you clear the space within you. It's going to release inner obstructions within you. It's going to help you receive the quantum codes that are reconditioning your brain, your nervous system, and your body for success. This is how I've transformed my life over the past 26 years. I've come from a really difficult, painful, crazy, chaotic background in my life. I've had so many different trials and tribulations, and the way I've overcome ultimately, though not initially, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but ultimately what I found is this inner embodiment practice, the work within, getting my nervous system, brain, and body to align with truth. And then the outside changes because the inside has been transformed. All right, so we're going to do an opening alignment process, this clearing of the body mind for transformation. And feel free to comment, feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to get access to more of these trainings. I promise you, I will be delivering a tremendous amount of coaching and leadership and transformational value. Experiential value. I like to train experientially, so feel free to subscribe if you want to get more access to this. You can also register for the live stream trainings in the description. There's links there. But before we dive in, I'm going to invite you into something very special and essential. Most people are jumping into information on YouTube or wherever they're getting it, very hungry for answers, almost lusting for more information. But they're really still carrying all this noise, this pressure and stress of the day, all their concerns, and they're very much in what's called a beta brainwave frequency. Beta brainwave frequency is not really readily open to receiving new information. And so when you approach information in a beta brainwave state, it's like only like 10% is getting through. So we're going to relax down. We're going to drop into more of an alpha state, and that's going to allow your brain, nervous system, and body to relax. It's going to allow this information to be more readily received. It's going to give you a heightened sense of awareness and allow you to see more, to be with the information in a more intimate way, relating it back to your own life, your own leadership, your own coaching practice, or your vision and dream. And you'll be able to process at a much deeper level. There's a higher degree of intelligence available. So this is what a lot of people are not realizing. When your nervous system is activated, your thoughts are racing, your energy's scattered, and you're not able to receive fully. So you don't integrate deeply. You're going to miss the very transmission, which is what I'm delivering here, that could change your life, empower your coaching practice, and your leadership in it. All coaches are leaders. We're leading people. We're taking them to another level, to the next level, to where they really want to get. And it requires fortitude of character. And that comes from within. So before we begin, let's clear the noise and take a few sacred moments to relax the body, settle the mind, and connect with the invincible being that is within you, this I amness, this existingness from which everything in this universe comes about. It brought you into existence, and you can actually listen for or feel into the presence, the aliveness of pure being. And I call it invincible being because it always was. It always will be. It's never going to be extinguished. And it's living in every single one of us. And when we tap into that experientially, when we have an encounter within with the life that was and is to come, we become empowered from the inside out. So go ahead and feel into this with me. This isn't just about a meditation or some breath work. We'll do a little bit of breathing to relax and center. This is actually how we forge leadership from the experience of presence, not through our performance. We live in a very performance-driven world. All right, we're going to relax a little bit. We're going to learn to draw from the power and the life potential within and let that express through us. And by tapping into the invincible kingdom within you, you'll be able to experience what really everybody is seeking out there. Okay, it is within you. The fullness is within you, and it always has been. And then sitting quietly right inside of you is the one thing that almost nobody is in tune with. And you're going to be the distinction. You're going to be the difference in the world when you're tapped in deeply and intimately to this source of power and aliveness. So we're going to do a little opening. All right, get ready to be soothed and relaxed, and that will bring forth power. And it will also then strengthen your ability to have lasting success and fulfillment. You're not here to chase more. You are becoming more in this process. And you already are everything that you're looking for. And you can start to realize and feel the fulfillment, the realization of that becomes alive inside. And it begins with stillness, with relaxing, with releasing the existing inner conditions. And this is going to free your inner being to open up to new possibilities, possibilities that you've not seen with your existing limitations and conditions. It's also going to open you up to higher intelligence. It's going to lovingly guide you through all of the activities that will unfold on your way towards greater degrees of success. So let's do this now together. Gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. You want to just relax, reduce the amount of visual stimulation coming in. Take a nice, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And we're going to let the belly expand as we do that. And then we're going to exhale through the mouth and relax the body. Good. Nose in again. Mouth out and relax the whole body. Soften as you exhale. Nose in again, nice and deep, belly expand. Exhale through the mouth, relax. Good. Now we're going to take a really big breath through the nose in, belly expand, and hold at the top. Just hold the breath in, okay? But relax your shoulders, your neck, your face, your belly. Soften the whole body, holding that breath with minimal effort. Relax and swallow your saliva. Feel the saliva run to the belly. This brings more attention to the inner part of your world. Make your lips into a pinhole. Slowly release the air. This is going to relax the whole body. Creates a lot of nitric oxide in the blood. And you're going to feel this relaxation. Your mind will clear. Your body will relax deeply. And take a moment to simply be with you. Feel what's happening within the body. Feel what's happening within the mind. Just let everything flow freely. There's nothing that you need to do. Just by observing, witnessing, welcoming, allowing what's present, you'll feel yourself beginning to relax, to detangle. You'll feel the inner conflicts or tensions, if there's any at all, to begin softening. And just allow yourself to continue to be. There's nothing you need to do for a moment. I'm inviting you to relax, to be here. Let your mind soften and open. Just witnessing whatever thoughts, emotions, feelings are present. This is starting to expand the degree of awareness. You realizing yourself as the observer rather than the content, which is the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings. So continue to feel into your heart space, around the heart, throughout the belly. Just feel, notice what's there. Around the neck, the face, the head, shoulders, and your back. Allow your body to release any tension as best you can. This is going to prepare you to really be with the transmission here in this training. Take a moment to welcome your worthiness as best you can, whatever that means for you. What does it mean to be worthy? My purpose, my mission is to empower leaders to be worthy of that leadership and to move out into the world successfully making a difference for human beings. What does it feel like in your body if that's you? Good. See if you can just let some more armor go. Get yourself into a safe place internally, secure. Releasing any sense of urgency, letting every part of you come home into this moment. You're safe here, creating safety within yourself, for yourself. You are seen here, seeing yourself, beholding with eyes of goodness. You're now opening up to something very sacred within you. Welcome that. Welcome the fullness. Welcome abundance. Welcome love. Welcome the guidance that you need before we start this journey together. And feel into this now moment. Your whole self is here. Good. Take one more breath in. Exhale. And let us begin. And if you want to drop anything in the comments, feel free to do so. Even if you're watching this as a replay, drop a comment. What are you noticing? What are you present to? How do you feel now as opposed to how you felt before we began this activation process to embody this training? Okay, we created an opening and a space for you. So now we're going to unpack the invincible leadership transformation and empowerment distinctions within this session. So the first part of this is to answer what is a distinction. So a distinction is not just a concept or a definition. It's much more than that. It's actually this clarifying lens that brings the invisible into view. It turns the background noise of your perception into foreground awareness. Turns the background noise of your perception into foreground awareness. So a distinction separates what was once blurred, invisible, also what is automatic within us that we don't realize, or what may be assumed to be true. And it makes it clear, it makes it conscious and available for us to view and therefore transform. Where there was once reaction, confusion, or limitation, a distinction gives us the power of choice. It's like putting on a new pair of glasses and suddenly seeing what you were bumping into all along. Okay, so distinctions are special lenses that we create in language, and they help you to see into the unconscious. They're a framework, a reference point for you to look through. So as we move through this training, we're going to cover a series of distinctions that allow you to discover things that may have been hidden for transformation and empowerment. So why does this matter right now? Well, the teaching that I'm about to share is not simply information. As I said, it's a set of distinctions, all designed to help you, number one, see yourself in your leadership journey with radical clarity. Most leaders don't have any idea what the journey is going to look like. And so they bump up against things that they have never anticipated. They fall short there. Number two, we're going to interrupt unconscious patterns that have run your life and your business. Number three, we're going to transform the way that you act and feel, the way you decide and lead. Because what is undistinguished, or indistinguished, I should say, cannot be transformed. But once you see it clearly, it never holds you the same way again. You can actually do something different with it. So this is the power of distinction work, and this is an integral part of how real leadership is forged. So let's dive in to distinction number one. This is the most powerful part of all of the training that I deliver. It's part of all training that I deliver. Distinction number one is perception precedes performance, production, and I just added a new P, profits. Used to be perception precedes performance, then it was perception precedes performance and production, and now I added also profits, because perception drives everything. Perception drives everything. We're going to start with distinction number one, which is this fundamental but typically invisible law that controls all human behavior. All right, perception precedes performance, production, and profits. It's 100% of the time, when understood and consciously utilized, it's going to give you back a tremendous amount of previously lost potential. Potential that's been bound in unconscious conditioning. The law of those 5 Ps reveals the secret to improving performance in any and all areas of your life. And that law, as I said, is our perception precedes our performance, our production, and therefore our profits. Okay? You don't lead from what you know. You're actually leading from how you perceive. Okay? We're gonna explore this invisible set of mechanical systems that control everything about your behavior. This is the foundational law of all inner transformation. Perception always comes first. Your performance, your productivity, and even your profits in life, leadership, or business, or any domain, anywhere, even in your relationships, are all results of your perception. It's not the other way around. Your perception is more than just thoughts. It actually includes the meanings and the conclusions that you've drawn about yourself, about others, about the world, about life, about God, or whatever. We have these fixed perceptions that control how we see everything. There's also emotional patterns that your body has memorized in response to successes in the past or failures of the past. Okay, that becomes part of your perception as well. And then there's these chemical imprints of your past, including trauma. There's moments of joy, there's disappointment, there's desire. Every time you experienced a need being met, your body was logging that as safety and satisfaction. right? It's pleasurable. And there's pleasurable emotions. And every time a need goes unmet, your body registers a signal of threat or lack, and there's unpleasant emotions, right? And over time, these stored interpretations, and they are just interpretations because different people have different emotional responses to different scenes, different experiences in their life, right? It's possible to shift and transform them if we're accessing the unconscious perceptions, but most people are not. Over time, as I said, these stored interpretations, they become a filter, a lens through which you now see everything. And that perception lens that you hold, that filtering system, controls how you behave. All of your behavior is driven by perception, right? Because I see something and then it goes through the filter of my perceptions, my thoughts, my conclusions, my meaning, my emotions, and the feelings that are there. And already automatically, right, I'm going to react and I'm going to choose or decide something. It's really more of a reaction than it is a choice or a decision consciously based on whatever's already written. And because most of our behavior is driven by this, that's why many of us seem to keep repeating patterns we don't want. Most of this perceptual function is happening below the conscious awareness. Up to 90% of your perceptual data is automatic, it's habitual, it's completely invisible, but we can make it visible. So this filter of your perception silently is determining what you believe is possible or impossible. It's also filtering how you interpret challenges that you face, rejection you encounter, or even silence, right? Whether you hesitate or act, lead or hide, surrender or control is all determined by perception. And until you become aware of your unconscious perceptions, your behavior will be governed by them. So this is how even addiction operates on an extreme level. But even without substances, all humans are experiencing forms of addiction to their own neuro and biochemical states. Okay? We're wired to seek familiarity over freedom. That's why we will get into bad relationships over and over, right? Repeat the same mistakes in a relationship. It's happened to me, right? Instead of choosing freedom, we don't even know what we don't know about why we're getting into these situations. It's unconscious, it's automatic. There's addictions that we don't see to specific neurochemistry and biochemistry, right? And even if that familiarity is pain, failure, or limitation, we'll go after it time and time again until we transform the unconscious. I remember being in a chaotic relationship that in my conscious mind, I knew it was crazy, but something invisible had me so addicted to being in that relationship, I could not get out. And what I discovered was there was a huge correlation to this desire to protect and rescue my mother from an abusive relationship she was in when I was a little boy. And when that became conscious, when I was reading a book called Breaking the Mother-Son Dynamic by John Lee? John Lee. And that opened up, it was a set of distinctions in that book, just in the first 2 chapters. I didn't even read the whole book, just 2 chapters. And it clears something for me. And I got aware of what was running my relationship patterns. And that's it. I was able to break off that relationship in a healthy way, conscious way, and move away from something that was just so unhealthy for me. But I was the one causing it. I don't blame her and what she was bringing to the table. I was holding all that in position. And many of us don't see our own cause for our reality. And I'm big on giving you power over those invisible causes because nothing brings me greater joy than to share what I've discovered after all the pain that I've been through. For those of you who know my history and my background, it's been an awful mess. And having overcome so much of that, it's like, man, how can I not share this with the world? It's my joy, it's my passion. So what does this mean for you as a leader? It means that your current leadership struggles are not just about your strategy. There are so many people selling you strategy, and strategy is important. But to be able to fulfill on strategy, we have to have the right perceptual framework. And that's where many of us are missing something that's needed desperately. So what we really need is to alter how we see things. So let's look at 2 real world examples. Here's an example of harmful unconscious perception. A new coach launches a group offer, trying to get people in, but they get little response. It's happened to me, right? So this coach perceives the silence as rejection. Nobody's responding to their messages, right? Nobody's showing any real interest. And then their nervous system automatically starts to link it to a childhood moment of not being chosen and validated. I am this example, but I also work with a lot of coaches who are even now struggling with this very same pattern. The minute they start to try and build relationship, this shows up. And without realizing it, they start forming this new meaning. Like, I'm not cut out for this, because they're experiencing pain, right? And they don't want to go near it. So they retreat. But what's really going on? Their perception has been distorted by old emotional residue. Okay, just the residue that's been sitting there, stagnant within. And they have not been connected with present day reality. There's no new point of view. So let's look at a beneficial unconscious perception, because there are. Sometimes we learn and absorb patterns and that are in our unconscious that are good for us. So here's another leader example that's facing the same silence as the coach, but because they've already had repeated evidence in their life that their value's not tied to external results, right? Like, they have just learned to affirm themselves. They're confident in the work that they do. They know they're producing good work. Maybe they've been affirmed earlier on in their childhood, and so it's easy for them to self-affirm. Well, now their perception interprets the experience of no response from their outreach as a data point, not as a definition of who they are or a definition of what they should or shouldn't be doing, right? Their system remains regulated. They reflect, they adjust their messaging, and they relaunch. This time with better alignment, they have greater clarity, right? They just keep applying themselves to optimize and apply constant and never-ending improvement to everything that they do. They take all kinds of losses and failures as opportunities. Thank you. Thank you, Alpha. Thank you for that. 2 watching now. Beautiful, including you. Awesome. Please comment your name if you're here with your YouTube handle that I might not recognize too, so I can make sure I know who you are. So as I was saying, they're reflecting, they're adjusting their meaning about everything first and foremost, and then they adjust their messaging and they relaunch. And this time they have better alignment and they have greater clarity. So every failure and every mistake is an opportunity for learning and optimizing. Okay. And now look, I've been through crazy pain. I got more reasons than many to say life doesn't work for me. Okay. I don't want to go into all the drama, but I could have interpreted all that. Fortunately, I have just recreated myself time and time again. And I'm 47 years old. I'm still doing it to this day. And I think sometimes we forget that we need to perpetually, daily recreate our perceptions, because our perceptions can be controlled and shaped and molded by especially the onslaught of social media today. So this is why I'm taking so much time here on this foundation of perception precedes performance, production, and our profits, because I'm telling you, all my failures in life and all the suffering that I've been through results in the conditions of my perceptions and not shifting at the perceptual level. And then trying to achieve success in the world outside of me, or in relationships, or achieve money in a particular way, create a particular business, and my perceptual frameworks were just out of whack. Pain I have run into because of this. All right. And so it's easy to get excited, enthusiastic, and run forward. And there's a whole perceptual framework that's going to sabotage us as we move forward. So the successful, healthy conditioned perceptions I'm talking about supported those leaders, that example that I gave you, those type of leaders, with momentum, and they did not collapse. Okay. And so we can develop this. And so this training right here is going to help you develop this, because I'm going to be exposing these invisible perceptions, right? And misperceptions right off the bat, the 5 misperceptions that leaders struggle with. And then we're going to go into all kinds of other frameworks about leadership, the levels of leadership, the 5 levels, and the 7 phases of leadership. And all of these are going to give you new perceptual opportunities. This is going to be a little bit more of a lengthy training, I realize, but I didn't want to leave any of this out, because my goal, my mission, my divine calling is to empower leadership right now. Our world needs leaders that are rising up in their power more than ever. And you're here because that's you, period. Let's go. So the difference between the successful, right, and the healthy perception versus the unsuccessful and unhealthy perception, it's not intelligence, it's not talent, it is the perceptual framework. And your job as a leader is not to get everything perfect. It's for you to learn how to see how it actually works under the hood and start developing clarity. With clear seeing, you're going to have power. So that's why all coaches and all the leaders that I'm training are getting access to this special set of tools that I've created called Forge Frames. And there's AI interactive custom GPTs that I'm developing now because I put a lot of emphasis on altering the perceptual framework. And it helps them bring the hidden perceptions to the surface, create new meaning, new experiences also internally, so that they can be refined into powerful, aligned leaders. So until you change what you automatically see, the conditioning of your perception, you're going to keep repeating what you've always done. There's a song that a friend of mine, she sang, she's like, I'm not going to sing because I don't remember the tune, but she's like, if you do what you did, you're going to get what you always got. Like it was part of the chorus. And I know it's a famous saying, it's been around for a while, but if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. And so the reason we do what we always did is because our perceptual frameworks are driving us to behave the same way. We've already developed a habit of responding to certain things that we see in order to survive them. And so I spend a lot of time with my leaders in training going through these core convictions that they hold, and we distinguish those, and we have them do a lot of work around and inside of that to identify all that, because before you can be a powerful leader, this inner world has to be completely cleansed and transformed by your intention. All right. I want to move you out of things that no longer serve you. So if you've got anything to share about this so far, would love to hear what you got. Feel free to comment. What's opening up for you? Any kind of engagement that you give to this helps me know who's here. I also want questions, challenges you're facing. I'm creating these trainings. I'm committed to this path of building these live streams, and these, the replays are available on YouTube so that leaders everywhere can get what they need. We get to rise together. So feel free to comment anything that supports you, also what you're getting out of this, and it helps me to stay alive with you and make sure that I know I'm delivering something of value. We're going to move into distinction number 2. And distinction number 2 is the 5 misperceptions of leadership. These 5 misperceptions of leadership are going to make a massive difference for you if you understand them off the bat before you start leading too much. Okay. So it's okay to be leading a bit, but you want to get this as you're going. Okay. It's like building the race car while we're racing on the track. So I love taking imperfect action, and we also want to continuously upgrade our perceptual point of view. So here's some misperceptions of leadership. Many people are actually unconsciously living, or have adopted, I should say, these distorted beliefs about what leadership is supposed to look like, right? There's these misperceptions that are blocking authentic influence, that increase the pressure inside of the leader's being, right? And it creates burnout or causes us to fall into avoidance. Like we just drop out of trying to lead altogether. And so I've been doing this a long time. I've experienced every single one of these. I've worked with so many coaches and leaders and healers, teachers, and moving them forward into success, moving them into greater degrees of expression and influence in the world. We're going to bump up against these different misperceptions sooner or later. Most of us will, and most of them will be part of our experience in some way, shape, or form. We've come to believe a lot of this stuff, and it just isn't true. To become the leader that you're meant to be, you got to confront these and release these illusions. Okay, there are illusions, but they are assumed to be true. So we got to question our assumptions. Misperception number 1. Let's jump into that. Misperception number 1 is leadership means control. Leadership means control. Well, the truth is that leadership is influence through presence, not by forcing or having all the control. It's very stressful to want to be in control all the time, to micromanage. But here's an example. A team leader that is micromanaging all the tasks, making all the decisions, believing that control is what ensures success. And control is important, but there can be an overemphasis on it. All right. This team becomes disengaged when they're operating under micromanagement. It's happened to me. They become resentful. When the leader, begins trusting her team and focusing on clear presence and purpose instead, the productivity will start to rise, and there's less control. And it's distributing control that makes the difference. And so, yes, there's a need for us to be in control of certain elements, especially in our business, definitely. But there's also a need to relinquish control at various times in strategic ways. And that can be difficult for some people. because we tend to believe that leadership means control of everything. So that misperception, just check in your life where it might be showing up, even in subtle ways. Remember, these are distinctions to help you break free from what holds you back or gets in your way. All right, so take a look, see what's there for you. Where do you feel like you have to have control or act like you do need to have control? In what way, shape, or form? And then we're going to start moving into misperception number 2, that leaders have all the answers. Okay? We think leaders are supposed to have all the answers sometimes. And as a leader, we think we're supposed to have the answer sometimes. I know I projected onto my leaders, mentors, and teachers of mine, that they should have all the answers. And when they didn't, they failed. I was disappointed, but I was setting them up for failure because I put this expectation on them. I had this misperception that they should have all the answers. They're way above me and they've been doing this a long time. And, I start creating all these stories, and it skews the perception of leaders that we have. Then if we don't clear that within ourselves, we can actually take that on and think that we're supposed to have all the answers. Well, true leaders are asking better questions. They're staying open. They're listening, putting their ear to the ground, connecting with the people that they want to serve, and feeling into the body of humanity. And oftentimes people are stepping into leadership because they want to be in control and dominate and be above everybody else so that they don't get touched by anybody. But these leaders don't succeed for long, right? And it's very disconnected from the humanity that we're called to lead. So true leaders are asking better questions. They're staying open. Let me give you an example of a coach that's feeling pressure to always know the right thing to say. These are things that I see coaches struggle with. I sure did when it came to public speaking and leading groups at centers that I worked at, recovery centers. And I would go in and I wanted to know that I had it all right in my mind and I was prepared. And I was afraid of looking unqualified, just like this example I'm giving you. But let's imagine this person who feels this pressure to always know the right thing to say. Now they start listening deeper. They start asking clients very powerful, connecting questions, right? Their sessions are going to become more impactful and more transformational. And as I mentioned in the recovery centers, I would go with a plan actually initially the first few times. I was leading groups and of different people that were struggling with alcohol and drug addiction and a lot of other challenges in their life as a result of this. And family dynamics were chaotic a lot of times. There's a lot of complexity in that group of people. So I wanted to make sure I had something valuable to give them. But as I would show up or drive there, really, I would start getting like this pressure in my mind to just let go and stop thinking and figuring it out and to drop my plan. And I didn't understand why. And it would make me so nervous because it made me feel like I was going to be out of control. And I thought control was having a plan, having a teaching that I was going to deliver that would make a difference. And it would just get frazzled as I was showing up because there was something bigger driving me. And I just surrendered and I would pray and I would ask for guidance. And I would just say, you know what, God, these are your people. And I'm here to serve them in whatever way they need to be served. And so I started showing up like that. And it was amazing what would happen because I just found myself not thinking and just being with the group, feeling into the group. And I would just start knowing what to say. I would ask questions. I would connect. I would create experiential, interactive processes that would make a difference for them. Sometimes I would go into a little bit of a teaching segment or I'd work with someone one-to-one. It was like, it allowed me to be really connected with my audience. And I had a handful of people in the room, 5 people, sometimes 10, 12, 15 at the beginning. I had these smaller groups. Eventually I grew to have 50 people in a group at a time, and I would still show up the same way. Guide me, direct me. These are your people. I'm here to serve. They belong to life, and I'm here to expand life in them in whatever way works. And I would just come and spontaneously create. Now, of course, I've done a lot of previous preparation and planning and studying and researching and self, work within. And I've been through a lot and transformed a lot in my life. So I had all that. But nonetheless, I still felt like I had to have a plan, and I didn't. All right. So let's move to misperception number 3. And I hope you're finding this valuable for yourself. Misperception number 3 is thinking that leadership is all about status. Okay? We think leadership is all about status. It's about having the money, the private jet, right? The luxury car. Because we see those leaders all over social media, right? And they're flaunting all that and they got lots of cash. And so what happens is some of us get like really attracted to that, but then it can form this persona that makes us think that, oh, I need to have all this stuff and this image in order to lead successfully because look at him, look how much money he has, look how much status he has or she has. And, oh, look how perfect her marketing is and all of this and how many people she has in her group. And we start comparing and all of a sudden we realize I don't have anybody, right? When I'm a new coach, I'm a new leader, I feel called, but I'm like, who am I? I'm like, I'm a nobody. I don't have all that. And we can compare and just fall apart. When we think leadership is about status, what we have, how successful we are, how much we've achieved and accomplished, right? Then we forget that we have value to give. And it can hide and blind our value very easily. It's happened to me many times over. Now, here's the truth about leadership. It's actually all about service, okay? For me, leading people from a place of love and service and contribution, how to make the biggest difference. As Jesus said, whoever among you wants to be the greatest, let him become the least. And that means seeking status is not the game that I play because I listen to those words. Those words ring true. They make sense for me, right? I want to lift people up. And there's another Bible verse that's coming to my mind right now, a couple scriptures today, but it's, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. And so when we're leading with love as a source, we build people up and we nourish them. And so it's okay to deliver information. It's okay to deliver strategy. I do all of those. Okay. But fundamentally, love is the building up factor. It's the expansion of life through me into another human being, right? And I have to know what they're needing and what's really present for them in order to nourish them at the most important level. Okay. So here's an example. There's this aspiring entrepreneur that launches a brand to gain attention and validation. I've had a friend of mine who was building a t-shirt company, but was struggling to gain traction. And so that didn't really work out. And he ended up just giving up altogether because the need to be seen and to be successful, right? Contrasted with the struggles of trying to build a business as an entrepreneur, the clash was too great and the perceptions didn't allow for further development and growth. But imagine what happens when, let's take another example of an entrepreneur, this woman who has done the same thing. She actually shifts her focus to serving the people that she's trying to reach with her brand. She's looking for what the problems really are in her audience, and she's discovering them, and she's creating product that connects with that audience. So now the audience starts to grow. People start to vibe with what it is she's sharing, and her impact is increasing. Okay, that's what's possible. But we have to have the right perception. That status doesn't make us a leader. Okay, what makes us leaders is getting to know the people that we're serving. I take all of my coaches through the Invincible Offer and Influence training system that first and foremost helps them discover their people and their purpose, right? They need to know who it is they want to serve. And then they learn about their aligned client, their unaligned client, who they want to serve, who they don't want to serve. And then they're learning about their aligned clients' motivators. What motivates those people? What problems do they have? Challenges, pains, insecurities? What dreams and aspirations do they have? What's going to happen if they continue down this path of failure where they're at right now and they don't succeed down the line? What's going to be taking place? We got to expose all of this and get as clear as we can to connect with real people. So I love doing that. And I love helping the coaches gain that traction. It's a beautiful thing. So let's move into misperception number 4, which is that leaders are fearless. This is a big one. We think leaders are fearless. Look at my Spartan warrior. Doesn't he look like the ultimate fearless man? I mean, he's literally like, nothing's going to touch him. If you saw 300, these guys were ready to die. It is possible to get to a state of fearlessness, even in the face of violence. Okay, but few people actually attain this. I have gotten to a place where I just got numb to violence in my gangster criminal days, and I just liked to fight. I was hanging with guys that were just like that. They were strong, wild, crazy, and we just built this energy that was like, we just didn't see fear anymore. It got to a place where we just like were brainwashing ourselves, and we were just bold and crazy. okay, and wild and effective. I was a really good fighter, but I was a troublemaker, and I was looking for trouble, and I got into trouble because I was looking for it. And I learned from that. But it's possible to get to a place of real confidence and fearlessness, but it comes with a lot of seasoned experience, okay? And in any endeavor, there's going to be fear no matter what. And I'm typically a fearless person in a lot of ways, but fear still shows up all the time when I look back on my endeavor to be a coach, to be a leader. I didn't know where I was going to get clients from. I didn't know where I was going to get money from. And there was fear there. What you do with the fear matters. Here's the truth, though, about leadership that you need to understand. Courage in leadership is really focusing in on the purpose that you have inside of the presence of your fear. It is your purpose, right, alongside of the fear, right, that's going to make the difference for you when you look at both together. So there was fear there for me when I started. I had no idea where I was going to make an income from as a coach. I struggled desperately, and I've been through highs and lows and different coaching transitions and, business ventures and opportunities. And when those unknowns show up, the fear can be there. To me, real fearlessness is not about never feeling fear. It's about being with the fear. And of course, I train and I coach and I lead as a trauma-informed coach how to be with our fear. It's an important part of our nervous system response. Fear is there. And when we learn to be with it in a certain way, it creates an experience of fearlessness likeness, right? It's just that we learn how to move through our fear successfully. A lot of people, their fear stops them or causes them to act really crazy and chaotically. Let me give you an example of a speaker who gets really anxious, let's say, before their first event, and they start thinking to themselves, maybe I'm not a real leader. Maybe they're not going to understand me. What if they reject me? What if I make a fool of myself, right? But imagine that she pauses for a moment, welcomes her fear, embodies the sensations, brings love and compassion to her feeling just the way it is, and then starts to review the whole scene, and she learns to see her fear as this normal part of growth. She accepts it. She surrenders into it with love and with compassion and decides, I'm going to show up anyway. And maybe when she steps out on stage or gets in front of her audience or whatever it is she's doing, she decides to share. Coming up here for my first time, I was feeling a lot of anxiousness, and there was parts of me that didn't even want to show up here. And you know what I thought? What greater way for me to show up and share and lead from the stage or in front of this group of people than by just sharing the fact that I'm feeling afraid. And I'm going to walk through this fear in conversation with you before I get into the rest of what it is I'm about to present. Imagine if that was the way you handled your fear about whatever it is, right? You be with it first, you acknowledge it, you honor it, and you show up and you speak to it, right? And you embrace, you have it without being ashamed of it. That's real power. Now that can create the illusion of fearlessness. The fear is really still there, but how you're being with the fear has changed dramatically. And so it's not the same kind of fear as the fear that we have that shuts us down and makes us react frantically and, want to run away. All right. So yeah, love that. Let's look at the fifth misperception to wrap this set of distinctions up. Leadership is natural charisma. I've heard this a number of times. I tend to be a more charismatic and passionate individual. I'm Italian, come from an Italian background, Italian family. I've been to Italy a few times. I've experienced Sicily specifically, even where I saw some really vibrantly alive people and got to encounter that energy and realize, wow, this is where I come from. So, but the truth is that not every leader is, super charismatic. Okay. I know leaders that are chill, humble. One of my mentors who I love, Eben Pagan, he's not a charismatic guy at all. Like, he's very level in the way he presents. His information's beautiful. And it's very enjoyable to me. He's not intense. He's not passionate. But then you think of someone like a Tony Robbins, and I worked with both of these guys. Tony Robbins is extremely charismatic, and he gets the whole audience going. I've been in a room of 5,000 people. We're walking over fire outside. It's like, oh, and that, that can be intimidating for some people. And we start thinking that we need to be this charismatic leader. But the truth about leadership is very different, okay? Leadership is character. It is not performance? What is your character like? What are you committed to? Who are you at your core? So let's look at this example of someone who's a soft-spoken team member that's assuming he cannot lead because he's not high energy. He's comparing himself to, say, Tony Robbins, or maybe the, manager of another department that he sees that's just doing so amazing, and everyone talks about that manager and it's like, oh, I love that guy, and and it's like so good, and so he's comparing himself now, right? He doesn't think he's got that high energy. It's just not his nature. He doesn't feel comfortable with all of that. But the difference is that this person has integrity, they have reliability, right? And he also has a calm presence, which other people are drawn to just as much, right? It draws people in equally. He's chill. People feel like he's a good listener, but he starts counting himself out because he thinks he's not charismatic, okay? So this leader making a perceptual shift says, you know what? These are the values that I hold. These are the qualities that I have. These are the things people do love about me. And this makes me worthy of stepping forward, and becomes one of the most respected leaders in the company as a result. Okay, it happens. I've met these types of leaders. I've worked with them in all kinds of positions in life. It doesn't have to be charisma, although charisma can be present. But let's not just assume that that needs to be there. So all of these misperceptions, all 5 of them, they're not just these intellectual misunderstandings. They're these emotional distortions that shape how you show up, what you decide you're going to avoid or pursue, and also where you overcompensate. They're living at the perceptual level. They are misperceptions. Okay, those are fixed, rigid perceptions that we might hold to be true that will certainly block our ability to authentically lead. So we want to move past that. So I'm curious for you watching, which of these misperceptions have you absorbed maybe from others? Because other people hold these perceptions. Maybe you've acted from some of these misperceptions. Maybe you silently have believed them, and listening here, you just realize, wait a minute, I have that perception, right? And it's not necessarily true, really. What might shift in your leadership if you were to release any of these 5 misperceptions? That's something for you to explore. The misperception that leadership is natural charisma, that leaders are fearless, that leadership is about status, that leaders have all the answers, that leadership means being in control all the time over all things. Which of those really stood out for you? I'd love to hear in the comments. And I advise you to write some of that down for yourself. If at the very least, if you don't feel comfortable commenting, maybe write in a journal, your keyboard, into your note tool on your computer, something. Take some notes for yourself. Meditate on this stuff. Go deeper. We're going to go deeper at the end of this. Like I said, we're going to do this special embodiment activation that's going to take you through all of these inwardly, really powerful and really transformative. But the more you engage, taking notes, doing whatever you got to do, the better. If you comment, even better. All right, so let's now look at distinction number 3. We're going to cover the 5 levels of leadership. There are 5 levels of leadership. These are super cool. They're very clear, very empowering by understanding them. They're not all pleasant, but they're important. So leadership, as I said earlier, is not something that you perform. It's actually a way of being. It's an embodiment of characteristics, I should say. And it's this embodiment that becomes our journey, moving to embody greater degrees of leadership. So these 5 levels will describe the inner evolution of a leader, going from reaction and survival at the first low level to sovereignty and to service. You can't skip the stages, okay? You're going to go through them no matter what. And honestly, you could be a leader in one domain of life. You could be like a soccer coach. You could be a manager in your job. But the minute you step into another domain, it's possible that you could start right at the bottom of this scale, right? These levels can show up multiple times in our life. Knowing them gives us power to work with ourself and our experience and our perception consciously instead of being controlled by it. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a slide to show you all 5. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper. So here are the 5 levels of leadership. Okay, we've got the reactor at the bottom, and then we move to level number 2, the survivor. Then we move to level number 3, the transformer. And then we move into level number 4, the initiator. And the last level that we move into is the radiant leader. So take a look at these. Maybe take a screenshot for yourself if you like. All right. Let's dive into each one, distinctly exploring and uncovering what's present for you right now in your life. If you're a coach, if you're a leader of any kind, let's take a look at where you're at. Level 1, the reactor. This is where you feel that life is happening to you. You're at the effect of life. You're not a cause over it. You're reacting emotionally, blaming other people, avoiding or denying responsibility altogether. Here's an example. Coaches sometimes blame the algorithm on social media, or blame their audience, right? Or the timing of whatever launch, didn't align with the moon and the stars and whatever. I've heard that before. And people trying to plan their, events around, celestial events. And that's, totally cool. But I've noticed that people do that and they're still not getting success sometimes. Why? Right? It's just attributing cause to something external. They're unaware that they're outsourcing power and they're actually avoiding the inner work that would put them at a level of responsibility that gives them power. Okay? Responsibility is an empowerment. It's not fault. And a lot of us, because we have been harmed or punished, I should say, because of the mistakes we may have made in the past. Maybe we didn't make mistakes at all that were really severe, but our parents or other people punished us for things we did or things we said, or maybe something we didn't do, or maybe we didn't say the right thing and we got punished, shamed, ridiculed, whatever. And what that does is it creates this fear of ever having that again. And so we automatically go into a blame, like, oh, it's not my fault, it's this thing's fault, because we are afraid of being punished. It's a really nasty habit that disempowers a large, massive amount of people in this world. So the breakthrough here is to begin noticing your emotional reactions without judging them. Okay? Noticing when you want to blame something, and then noticing the fear that's going on underneath. Welcoming the feeling in the body, embracing that with love and compassion. We got to move through our inner experience and bring love and compassion to it in order to overcome the perceptual conditions. Perceptions are not cognitive. They're not just concepts in our mind that we can easily see consciously. We have to feel through the perception also and transform it that way. Awareness is the first step out of reactivity. So level 2. Level 2 is the survivor. So in level 2, you start taking some degree of responsibility. You're taking action, but the action is fueled by fear and scarcity and over-efforting. Okay, we're doing way too much. We're scrambling. We're trying to get it done. And there's all this fear of the consequences if I don't get this done, if I don't make the money, if I don't get results, if I don't get this client, if I don't get, an audience that's going to follow me, if I don't get 10,000 followers, like, oh my God, we get so scrambly in this state. But each level is progressively a little bit more energy and a little bit more intelligence developing, and ultimately leading us to greater possibilities of success, right? So the survivor state, none of these are bad or wrong. They're just states or levels that we experience ourselves in, and we got to move through. So here's an example. There's a new business owner that's working 12-hour days, constantly pushing, but underneath is this deep fear of failure. They're equating hustle with worth. This has been me recently, even. This is something I've been experiencing because of a new location, new living space. having spent 2 years helping out my family member and really retracting from business and trying to scramble to pick it back up. And then, shifting from a partnership that I had last year into working again independently on my own and like not knowing the direction right away. So even I went back into the survivor state. Okay. And I started scrambling. And even recently, within the last few months, I've been experiencing times where I'm like, man, where am I going? What am I doing? Like, am I going to make it? Am I whatever? And I have goals and dreams that are bigger than where I'm at right now. And I can see myself sometimes getting stuck in that survivor mode. All right. It's okay. It happens as we're moving sometimes, but distinguishing it, being aware of it, welcoming the feelings, examining that. If you have people to share with you, it's even better. I'm grateful that I have my coaching, company. I got my people in training. I can always share with them. And I've got other good friends and people in my network that I can, confide in. It's good to have that relationship support. And the breakthrough comes from, learning to rest without feeling guilty. And this has been one of my biggest struggles because I know, I work with a lot of people too who also have struggled with this. When we're feeling like our accomplishments have not been accomplished, when we're not having the money that we maybe desperately need, the last thing that we're thinking about is resting or relaxing. And we're certainly going to feel guilty if we do. And this is definitely something I have struggled with in the past. The guilt is not something that's really present for me now. Sometimes I don't want to rest. But I notice that when I do, there's a resurgence of peace and power and aliveness. And of course, I encourage my coaches to do the same because they sometimes fall into this survivor state as well. When we recognize the fear under our drive to survive and then begin, embracing it with love and compassion, we can now lead from a place of stability and inner safety and inner support and security rather than survival. All right. So that's a beautiful thing and it's possible. There's a lot of work we do within and learn how to be with our inner world in a particular way. It takes practice like anything to get better at that. But once we're really good at that, wow, we can just move through. So go ahead and welcome whatever you notice about the survivor level in your life right now, whatever it is that you're up to. And then we're going to move into the next level, which is the initiator. And the initiator is where you begin to set vision and goals. Okay, now you're taking a step back, you're pausing, and you're going to start to look at the bigger picture. This is where you can develop a bigger strategy. You move intentionally. You start taking ownership of the path, but the ego still tries to drive the outcomes. What is the ego? It's a fear response. That's pretty much a simple way to define ego. Ego is a fear response. It is a strategy for surviving something painful that we've encountered in the past that we're now afraid of ever encountering again. And the ego is our best effort. I call it the self-illusion. It's also known as the mask that we wear, or there's masks, many masks, but that's what it is. And so our ego is still trying to drive outcomes when we're in the initiator stage to some degree. Here's an example of a leader who gains confidence in their ability to serve and to help people. They've been making a difference, having good feedback from clients, and they launch their signature program, but become very attached to how that program launch performs. And if it doesn't match their expectation, their worth feels threatened. It's happened to me. Now, I've done a lot of launches. I've put a lot of things out there. I do feel degrees of disappointment if something doesn't turn out to be good or work out great. But man, it's like this compared to when it was like this huge chunk of like this heavy, you ever have that heavy emotional, like, oh my God, like huge disappointment? Because I've been so loving and compassionate and gentle with those parts of myself that my response of disappointment is so minor compared to what it used to be. And that's huge progress that we can make, even if it's not fully eliminated. So the way we break through is, and this is more of like the technical concept, we got to detach from the outcome, okay? That's easy for me to say, but in practice, it looks like work within. welcoming the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, and the specific attachment itself, and the effort to strive and avoid the pain and the fear that we feel inside. Okay. Now there's a specific process for doing all of that. I've been doing that for years with people because I had to do it with myself deeply. But part of the breakthrough is also refocusing on the process then, which is easier when you do the work within. Then the vision becomes more sustainable because it's not fueled by the image that I have that it's supposed to be like this image of perfection, right? It's fueled by a sense of purpose. It's fueled by my commitment. It's fueled by my dedication. I have a different story running that gives me power. That's how we break through. And that story is more than just cognitive. It's emotional, it's somatic, it's within the body, has a certain frequency where I'm just like feeling that I'm worthy, people are worthy, I have a purpose, they have a purpose, and I'm going to step out and keep stepping out. And I'm not, well, like, what does Les Brown say? It's not over until I win. That attitude. It's like, it's not over until I win. If I'm not winning yet, it ain't over yet, right? It's like just knowing victory is inevitability. Okay. And that's a beautiful attitude we can develop, but we got to handle those misperceptions internally first that come at this level. All right. The fourth level is the transformer. Now, this is where you're integrating past wounds and turning those wounds into wisdom. Okay, we're doing much deeper work within. This is where you learn to lead with compassion, vulnerability, and conscious presence, yourself first. Okay, first person to lead always, it's you. I first learned to lead myself with compassion, vulnerability, begat the compassion, being vulnerable and open to what was there. Then I could show compassion and love to what was there and being consciously present with it, the fear, the nightmares that lived inside of me. I had to learn to be with that. Most of us want to run away from that. So did I. I was. Most of us are running away from that. We've been running away from that for years, perhaps. But when you finally turn within and make peace with the parts of you that have been craving attention, that never got the love, the support that they needed, that never felt safe, that felt very afraid, that were deeply hurt, right? When we finally turn to all of that, it's like we show it love and compassion, it starts to melt. And that changes the whole background of our perceptual framework dramatically. And it's changed my life. And that's really, like I said, the foundation of what I do is I lead people here first. I had strategy for years. I've been strategic since I was a little kid. It's awesome. But when perception is misaligned, you stumble over strategy. I stumbled over strategy. I see so many people stumbling over the strategy because what's inside of them is not clear. All right. That's, we're going to wrap that up there. And now we're going to move into the example part of the transformer. The example would be, let's say there's a mentor and they've been using their past mistakes and their healing journey to guide other people with authenticity. I've got a bunch of those in my world over the years. You might know some of them as well. They're not hiding their pain. They're sharing vulnerably and authentically. They are actually sharing their wounds, their breakdowns, their failures as a bridge. I have some clients that I work with right now that are so good at doing this. Like, it's fascinating how amazing they are, how vulnerable and communicative and expressive they are of the challenges, the pain, the hurt. I've had other clients in the past too that are just fantastic. I've done a lot of sharing the deep pain and agony, the fear, the things that I carried within myself and have had to move through. And oh man, it was not easy to get to that point, but it's beautiful. But that's transformation. This is the breakthrough that we're creating here. It's where we're recognizing that our greatest influence comes from the things that we've already transcended, not what we're avoiding, or also the things that we're dealing with currently, and we're dealing with them openly. And there's a lot of power in that, right? When we really deal with it openly, tell the truth about where we are. It's scary to sometimes come out like that. But when you practice it in small steps with people that are safe, and so, you can share and they validate and affirm. That's why I create group settings where we can share these things and people start to realize, oh, there are people benefiting when I share my pain, my hurt, my frustrations, my fears, my nightmares, right? My failures, my breakdowns. It's like when that's shared in the right context, people will validate you, support you, hear you, and that changes your brain chemistry altogether. It's a radical rewiring. Brain, nervous system, and body suddenly starts to record, wait a minute, these things that I have thought were problems within me for years that I didn't even know were there, maybe, or was avoiding desperately with addiction at an extreme level, or maybe just workaholism or some other thing, gaming, sex, pornography, whatever, right? Or maybe it's just, I'm just numb. Maybe I put on a happy face, but I'm covering up a bunch of stuff that's there. When we finally learn to be with it all powerfully and effectively, it's amazing. And there's something deep that happens in us, and we integrate those parts. It's beautiful. So let's move on to level 5, the radiant leader. This is the last level of the 5 levels of leadership. And the radiant leader is where we're progressing to. We all want to be the radiant leader when we start, but the truth is we start at the reactor level, and it's okay. None of it is wrong. Like I said earlier, it's all part of the journey. How you handle each level is what's important, and what's missing is the how to handle each level correctly. Each level has its own set of handling, and I covered all of that as I went through each of these. Okay, and then we reach this level called the radiant leader, and the radiant leader is where you're embodying leadership as a way of being. That's the goal. All right. You radiate this sense of trust. You've got clarity. You're capable of displaying humility. You're also vibrantly alive with your purpose. Your presence actually transforms the room. Who you are communicates without you even speaking. And when you do speak, people feel that. They connect with it. It's like breath of fresh air. Okay. The radiant leader is where we aim to be. Don't beat yourself up if you're not there. Okay, each level has its place. It's all part of the journey. It's all part of becoming a radiant leader. In fact, handling each level is how you grow into it. You don't just jump from level 1 to level 5. In any skill that you're building, in any practice, piano playing, right, riding a skateboard successfully like a trick skater, whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to have to move through stages and levels. Okay, how you handle those levels matters. So where a lot of people fail to achieve like great success is because they just don't handle the level they're at well, and they fall back, they shrink, they avoid, or they try to start some other path because they're like, oh, this one's too painful, and they go find another path. But it's like, no matter what path in life we take, no matter what area we're trying to lead in, whatever your leadership journey is calling you to, whatever your passion really is, there's going to be challenges. You start chasing the shiny object. You start chasing the shiny pathway that looks a little bit easier. It's just not there. There's problems at every level. All right. So here is an example of someone that is living as a radiant leader. We'll define this person. She's a spiritual entrepreneur, and she's not hustling for clients anymore. Okay. Everybody wants to be here. And there's a lot of people falsely teaching that you just have attraction marketing, like you're just going to step into this no hustle. What they're doing is they're teaching from level 5 leadership because now they're there. But see, they're still relatively inexperienced leaders, right? They've reached level 5 maybe for themselves, and now they want to take new wannabe leaders, coaches, whatever, and they want to move them into this, attraction marketing leader. You're just going to attract people by who you are, and you don't have to do any of the work and all that other connecting stuff. It just hasn't worked in my experience for me. It hasn't worked for all the coaches I've served that have already tried that and failed and tried that and failed. There's a progression through. There's just no way out except through the steps and levels properly. But the spiritual entrepreneur is no longer hustling for clients. Okay. She's attracting opportunities. She's in alignment with herself. She has full presence. She has clarity of her mission. She's alive and vibrant. And it's like, wow. Okay. That is what it looks like. She's just beaming from the stage. People love her, buy her offers like that. So I've been at this stage multiple times in my life, in my career as a coach. I've been that person where I'm just, things are just flowing, and I've had to start all over multiple times, change of direction, or life challenges and situations and things I didn't prepare for, and so on and so forth. And so I've had a lot of opportunity to explore all of these levels many times over. And when you get to level 5, it's great, but that doesn't mean everyone just gets to automatically go there because now that you're there. So I don't try to take people to level 5 overnight, instantly. It just doesn't work. I move them through the reactor level, and I work with reactor level coaching and support. And then I bring them into the survivor level, and we start looking at the different elements that are causing them to be like, furious and surviving. Then through the initiator level, then through the transformer level, and then the radiant leader is the result of moving through the previous 4 levels. So the breakthrough here is that at this point, we're stopping the trying to lead. We're not really struggling to lead. Leadership is a way of being. We start being the invitation that others just rise in response to. And this was something I used to teach in my men's group, where I would say we're just learning how to be the invitation, because a lot of us have been in that survivor mode for a while. And I was taking men into that space. In fact, we're about to launch our men's group again. I'm excited. The Invincible Man is coming. Just want to make that announcement. I wish I would have had a slide for that. I didn't think about it. But yes, that's coming. My good buddy Brian and I are about to roll that out probably in a week or so. I'm excited about that for any men that you know that need real space to face themselves, to transform, bring them on in. In fact, I might come back to this video, drop a link in the description where people can start to register. It's really awesome. So it's wonderful to work with a group of men. If you're a man, you know what I'm talking about, if you've done that before. And women have a lot of these groups. Men don't have as many places where they can grow together. So here's a teaching insight that I would like to share before we move on to the last set of distinctions, which will be the 7 phases of invincible leadership. This insight is just basically that you cannot fake radiance. You can't skip through the levels, like I said, without being forged through levels 1 through 4. I want to sum it all up with this. Every stage will have to be walked through with humility and courage. I didn't say that yet, but the humility part is just not putting yourself on a pedestal and trying to make yourself some kind of great person or leader when you haven't really done all the work yet. Okay, like it's just unfair to you to put that kind of expectation on you. So each stage has to be walked through with humility, but also a degree of courage. Okay, like we can't just be passive about it. So what level best represents your leadership right now? Think about that. Where are you at in your experience? Where do you regress under pressure? What would it look like to step into the next level of leadership with grace and honesty? This is about your transformation. This is about you getting to the next level. For you, what's there? Go ahead and take a moment, and I'm going to give you a moment while I bring up the next slide. Good. So distinction number 4, the 7 phases of invincible leadership. So as I said earlier, leadership is not about performing. That's what many of us look at. We look at successful leaders and we try to mimic what they're doing. We don't understand the wiring under the board. We don't see the invisible, like the computer code, let's say, that's running the app, right? We see the app, but we don't see all that invisible stuff that makes that app function, okay? Leadership is about being forged from the inside out. And when you're forged, when I use the word forged, a forge is a place where metalworking is happening. Okay, forging also refers to like the heating of metal and like the hammering of the metal to shape it. It's an intense set of processes all the way through, right? Heating metals up or ore and breaking it down, purifying it, separating it out, right? And then pouring it into molds and heating it up, shaping it, running it through machines to do it. Like forging is a lot of hot expansion, cooling, contraction, hammering, smashing, shaping. Yeah, forging is what leadership is really like. We're going through the forge of leadership all the time. Life is the forge. And when we don't know this, when we don't have that expectation, then we can misinterpret the whole journey. So I'm going to cover these phases, which are a little bit different, in some ways a lot different than the 5 levels of leadership, because each of these phases you're going to identify with and you're going to understand. They're going to be part of your moving into leadership. They're just something that you get to explore and understand and consciously embody and embrace. So the 7 phases, they're not theoretical. They're proven in my experience. They live as reality. I've seen them in my own life. I've seen them in others. I've talked to people about leadership, about coaching, about moving forward into success. And I've listened to so many people as well talk about their journey, and you'll just see this show up everywhere. This is not going to be something that you don't grasp right away. You'll get it right away. You just probably haven't heard it quite like this. So pay attention always from the viewpoint of your own life and your own path of leadership right now, like where you are, also where you've been. This is going to empower you going forward. So each phase is like an inner initiation. Every leader has to walk through to be initiated again and again. Each phase represents another threshold, a doorway, a gateway. It's a transformation. There's also a gift inside of each one. I'll share those also as I move through. Knowing where you are right now is going to give you clarity. It's going to give you compassion for yourself. And it'll also help inspire some courage to keep going. So the first thing that we're going to look at is phase one. And phase one is the spark of destiny. The spark of destiny. Okay? This is where the call to leadership actually begins. You're going to feel something that's deep, it's powerful, something awakening within you. There's this sense that I'm made for something more. All right? That's a beautiful thing. Start to welcome that. Imagine you've been listening, right, to a live stream like this, maybe, or a video like this. Your heart's pounding. Maybe you get emotional even because you're hearing something that's so powerful and speaks to your soul. You're knowing that deep down, like, I'm called to this. I'm called to be this person, to show up this way, or, you know, have this vision and want to make this difference. And like something starts to come alive inside of you. Well, that's the spark. But here's the trap that happens at this phase. The spark is beautiful, but what happens is we start to confuse the spark with the fire. And there's a huge difference. Sparks are sparks, right? The thoughts, the imagination, the feelings spark, right? But a fire is something that's sustained, it's going, and it can be growing. So inspiration is actually just the invitation to the next levels. Inspiration is the spark that can begin, right, a fire. It is the invitation to the possibility of growing the fire. But the fire needs to be fanned into flame, and we need to add more kindling. We need to add more wood. We need to really build this fire, okay? But a lot of people get the spark, and then the spark fizzles like that. And we want to avoid that from happening, all right? We want to keep that from happening, I should say. So now phase two is what we bump into next. This is where the spark starts to get lost. We have this collision with reality. In phase two, we collide with reality. Our dream starts to meet some form of resistance. Doubts begin to surface. Other people are not responding how, we hoped. You hit these walls within yourself, how you feel, how you think, your doubts, your insecurities, your uncertainties, right? Questioning everything. Am I really made for this? Right? And you start even questioning, the whole future that you once believed when the spark was there. And maybe you run into barriers and obstructions around you. Different challenges, different breakdowns show up, right? You're just getting lost, stuck. The example that I gave earlier is like you're launching something, right? New coaching program, new teaching program, new course, whatever. You're very excited about it, but no traction, okay? Like the spark was there, you got a bit of work done, but nothing happens, no results yet. Then your excitement turns to doubt, turns to questioning. And what happens is those sparks start to fizzle out. And how do we bring extra kindling there to make sure that that spark turns into a fire? That's what we got to start thinking. The trap at this phase is believing that resistance means that we're off track, that, oh, I'm not meant to do this. I've heard so many coaches, even recently, they put themselves out there and all of a sudden it's like, I didn't get a response. They've been doing this for 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, right now they're hurt. And now they're disappointed. And now they want to give up. It happens. I faced this in myself when I started for the first time coaching. I was constantly battling my own, like, oh, am I in the right path? Should I keep doing this? Should I give up? I mean, not succeeding the way that I envisioned thousands of times over. I mean, I'm just unusually persevering. And that's really it. That's the breakthrough, is that the forge of our soul is going to help us to break through. We need to learn how to refine our inner world, our perception, through the forging of our perception. We can reshape, redesign, we can heat it, we can expand it, we can eliminate parts of it, we can purify it, and we can actually forge that perception and not retreat, but instead develop a sense of greater commitment and resolve with a new level of strategy. Okay, so that's phase 2. Then we have phase 3. This is another challenge we run into, the temptations of escape. Okay, the temptations of escape get even larger and greater as we move forward, not smaller. Okay, and then phase 2, we start to run into that a little bit when we run into the reality, the challenge. But then there are temptations to escape later on. This is where your nervous system actually starts to really get dysregulated. Old survival responses are returning. We turn to distraction, old addictions, patterns, watching Netflix maybe, just avoiding thinking about doing the thing that we're dreaming of doing as a coach or a leader, or teacher, healer, whatever. We numb out. Maybe we start overworking like on some particular thing, again, just to put blinders on so we don't have to look at the scenario. We're trying to escape through overwork. Maybe we just quit, because that's a way to escape real easy, right? A lot of us know that. Or we self-sabotage in some way, because if I sabotage myself and make this thing not work, then I don't have to face the pain of the challenge. And so there's that temptation, right? There's all these invisible factors in our perception we need to learn how to be with. So imagine that you suddenly want to scrap everything and start all over. You've probably been here before. This is a real example I'm sure you can find in your life. You've been doing something, but it's like not enough. So what you do is you do what I said before. You binge on the Netflix, right? You just kind of maybe pick up drinking, or you pick up smoking some marijuana, and you just kind of zone out and just avoid the whole calling altogether. Or maybe you go for some other certification instead of fulfilling on what you've already started and completing it and owning your own program. You get into someone else's thing, and you're just not being that person. Now, I'm all for being in training and programs, and I wouldn't be who I am without that. And I'm in some trainings now in men's work, and I've got mentorship and coaching and leadership in my life, and it's important to have that concurrently. But sometimes we use that as an escape, right? Like, we should use that as a support for our own extension. That's ideal. All right. And that's how we break through in this space. We stay with the discomfort, and we learn to be with what temptations show up, and we start to transmute them. We turn them into something valuable, right? They seem worthless and unhealthy, but we welcome them. We allow them in. We pay attention to them. We learn from them. We love them with compassion. We also learn to say no to some of those addictions, those addictive habits, and we learn to apply the warrior archetype in ourselves. And we learn to set some boundaries and say, no, I'm not going to feed into this anymore. I'm going to do something different. Here's what I'm going to do instead, right? What ends up happening, the trap in this phase, is that we mistake, relief from the discomfort as realignment. And just because you're relieved of your pain and discomfort doesn't mean that you suddenly got aligned, because that's what addiction is. People go for the alignment of pleasure, but the addictions, whatever the pleasures are keeping us from actually creating life successfully and doing life successfully. And so that's the allure, that's the temptation, right? To pull away to what feels better, to avoid what feels difficult, what hurts a little bit. I'm a martial artist. I played sports. It's difficult to train, and it's difficult to spar. It's difficult to run, jump, and do somersaults in the air. And, there's small injuries that can take place, sometimes bigger ones. And, it's uncomfortable to hold horse stands for multiple minutes at a time, or to do all the forms and just constrained to holding these forms and training in Kung Fu. It's like, but it's a discipline, and there's results, there's rewards that come. It's moving through the hard, embracing the hard, is where the win comes. All right. That's how we break through. Phase number 4. I wish I could say it gets easier, but it's not true. In phase number 4, this is where we come to the real dark night, and it's the dark night of surrender. Okay. I've reached a few of these dark nights in my lifetime, and they are important. They're valuable, but we can misinterpret them. This is where a lot of people just give up altogether. Some people give up on life when they run into this phase, right? They're meant for something, but they just don't know what to do here. But surrender is our way out. This is where, though, in the dark night of surrender, this is where your strength is not working for you. Everything you try just seems to fail, and every door just seems to shut in your face. There's no way out. It feels hopeless. You feel lost. It's like, where am I? Right? That's what's going on in these spaces. That's why we call it the dark night of the soul. It's not a bad thing. It's a horrible experience. It's not pleasant at all to be in that state. I'm telling you, I've been there. It's a nightmare sometimes. Really bad for me in the places that I've been. But looking back with wisdom now, that's where I learned to surrender. Okay? Whenever your strategies are failing, when you're hitting the edge of your own identity and it's no longer working, all the things you do to survive and to look good and get along and, be powerful in life just don't seem to be effective. This is where you realize all of a sudden that you can't do this your old way. It's not easy to go through that, to feel that, to face that. So you could be burnt out in this stage severely, be totally numb, weeping on the floor. I remember this one many times, literally in tears, crying, feeling completely hopeless, completely lost. But that was right at the cusp of a breakthrough for me. When you're not sure of who you are anymore, you ever feel that? You're just like, why am I even here? I don't deserve to be here. I don't belong on this planet. I mean, I've heard so many people tell me this. It's gone through my own mind. I don't want to live anymore. It's too painful. It's never going to get better. Like, it can be so dark in this place. The secret, though, to success, to pass through this phase properly, is to realize that this is the death of the illusion, not of us as we really are. What's dying is everything we held on to so desperately to survive, to avoid the pain and the fear that we carry unconsciously. This is what's happening in that moment. And so I've learned to take myself through this, and I've taken other people, countless people, through this experience. It's not fun, but it's the death of illusion. This is where we're starting to let the old self go. The trap in this phase is thinking that the breakdown is the end of the line. And we come to that place. That's our interpretation. It's a misinterpretation. It's our perception in the moment, but it's that illusory self that's seeing itself as ineffective, and it doesn't like that. And there's a lot of pain, and we have an emotional response. We might fall into complete apathy. Maybe we're grieving and crying and sad. It's a terrible loss feeling, right? Maybe we feel shame because we're embarrassed about where we are in that moment. But you see, what's really happening is a dying to everything that was never us in the first place. You were never meant to live from those structures. Those structures were temporary, and what you're meant to live from is greater. It's sustainable. It's more authentic. Those were not as genuine as you really are. And you'll find that when you persevere through phase 4. All right. So we'd love to hear what you're getting. You want to drop some comments in. Is this resonating with you? Would love to know. Are you noticing anything here for yourself? Feel free to engage, share yourself. It helps others too when they come in and watch this later. The comments will be available. People feel like they're not alone. We're going to go into phase 5, divine alignment. Divine alignment is what happens next. When we finally surrender in phase 4, when we're willing to let go of the illusion, when we realize that our illusions aren't working for us, and when we realize that we can't hold on to them anymore, we surrender completely. Now, all of a sudden, we begin to have this sense that something deeper within us is taking over, right? It's this, in AA, they talk about the 12 steps. The first step is coming to, or admitting that we are powerless over our addiction. Well, we might as well come to admit that we're powerless over this addiction to using these survival strategies or this way of being or doing life the way we've been doing. It's just not working anymore, right? We may not be dealing with drugs or alcohol, but we may be addicted to our ego survival strategies. And so we have to admit that they don't work anymore, right? And it says in step 1 that our life had become unmanageable. Well, when we're in the pit, we're in the state of despair. We're in that phase of the dark night. We realize that we got to let go. And this is beautiful because when we do, we surrender the outcomes and the results, and we start to trust the timing. We end up partnering with the divine power. Step 2 in the 12-step programs says we came to believe that a power greater than ourself could restore us to sanity. And I had to walk through these because I was struggling with drug addiction, using cocaine, heavily, alcohol, smoking, and pills, and other drugs like ecstasy and just special case, mixing all kinds of stuff. I was just perpetually chasing some kind of high. And I had to admit that it was no longer working. I didn't know how to run my life. I had to admit that. It was a very dark night. It was very difficult. I felt embarrassed and ashamed of who I was in that moment. And I didn't want to live. But then when I was crying on the floor, literally, like I was talking about earlier, literally weeping on the floor, like, oh my God. And I had a knife to my neck because I was literally ready to cut the jugular and just bleed out. I didn't want to live anymore. And all of a sudden I just surrendered completely. I was like, I'm worthless in this state. But in that moment of total surrender, I started to hear an old song that I had heard during Christmas time called "Oh Holy Night." And it was something that we sang in an elementary school during Christmas time. They sang inside of the chapel we used to go to. And that song came alive inside of me right while I was in the pit, on the floor, snot all over the place, tears, and a switchblade in my hand with the knife blade. Thank God it was dull, old knife that I had. And I had grabbed that and I put it to my neck and I was like pressing in my neck, but it wouldn't cut. It was so dull. And then I thought, oh, I'll just puncture, right? Because that pointy tip. And as I was at that point, I just dropped like my whole being. And that song came on in my head, the DJ inside, "Oh Holy Night." And I felt this surge of power, love and goodness. And it was like, wow. It was like waiting for me to let go. And then all of a sudden, I felt this new rush. And I felt God as a presence in my body, in my being. And this would happen actually multiple times over, where I would fall to the floor in tears and whatever. So I'm sharing this with you because I've been there more than once. Over 26 years, it's happened many times throughout all 26 years. Even recently in my life, I've experienced this state. It's just I progress differently through it. I've been there before. I know how to respond, let go, surrender. That's the game. That's how we get out. So instead of pushing, you actually pause. You start to listen instead of trying to command and control, right? You start receiving these inner instructions. Things begin to flow because now you're open and you're receptive to something greater than your conditioning. The trap at this phase is trying to control the form of the guidance. We want it to look the way we want it to look. The breakthrough is you don't need to force it. You're actually going to be led. And this is where I take all of my coaches and my leaders is into communion with the divine presence. I'm not interested in propagating religion because religion gets a little funky and wonky, if you know what I mean. And, some people say that their religion's the right religion and so on. For me, God is an experience to be felt and to be in tune with, and is not bound by any particular religious structure, but is actually something that people need to come into contact with in a way that is fitting and suitable for them. And I know a lot about the major religions, and I find a commonality inside of them all. And there are higher heights and greater degrees of awareness and revelation that we can have, but not everybody's at the same level and not everybody can receive the same way. And so I've learned to be open and connect with people where they're at and find a more universal way to help people connect with the divine within. And it happens and it's possible. And God is a very real thing, or real presence that we're all growing and living from, but it's not something that we feel conscious of a lot of the time, but we can be. And it's a beautiful thing. But that's where we receive it, in that state of the dark night where we finally feel like nothing I am of myself alone is cutting it. And that's when we we have access to this greater power. It's there all the time. but what we're doing and how we're being is like denying the power. And so it's not like it isn't us. It is us. It's what we are fundamentally, but we've been kind of moving away from that and we don't realize it until this moment comes. All right. So that's phase 5. Now we start to explore phase 6, where things start to take off a little bit, right? Phase 1 through 5, not so nice. Phase 6, it's where we're receiving grace. All right. It's what I'm talking about earlier here. Just receiving grace. That grace is unworked for favor. It is bestowed freely and generously without you having to earn it. And that's what we want to live from. It feels good to live from this. We receive grace. And the dark night experience prepares us for grace. And if we know that, we can have this hopeful expectation that this isn't the end. This is the end of the old for a new beginning to show up and come into me. All right. So unexpected support will start to appear from the inside, but also from the outside. Maybe people, events, circumstances, things will happen. Insight will start to flow. Provision shows up and just meets you where you're at and with what you need. You realize that you were never alone and that you never had to carry it all by yourself. Now, for those of you who study the Bible at all, there's hundreds of stories where this is how it is, right? The people in the Bible are running into challenges, great enemies. There's a Goliath opposing Israel and the Philistines and this great army. And like, they're like, oh, and they're at the low point. And then David comes along and conquers Goliath and changes the whole thing. And every great movie that you've ever watched is this hero story, right? You can watch these films that take us through this journey where there's this low point, this pit of despair. How about Lord of the Rings? My gosh, sometimes it gets so hopeless there in that points in the movies that you're just like, oh, like the odds are extremely overwhelming. And then what happens? The grace shows up, right? Like there's just magic and powerful new armies come in, friends, allies, and the tide is turning. And so it's just like it happens in life, and we can have a hopeful expectation of this. So this is where, again, we realize that we were never alone. We didn't have to carry this all by ourselves. It's like, someone just starts reaching out and offers you help out of nowhere. This door opens suddenly. A burden lifts without you actually trying to make it happen. That's a beautiful thing. The trap in this phase, though, is that this is a big one because I ran into this, okay? Especially in my initial coming out of my gangster criminal drug dealing days. We feel unworthy of grace. So I had a hard time receiving grace initially in a lot of different ways. It was showing up because I was so ashamed of who I was. I was so still identified with my past and I was blaming myself. I realized what I did was wrong. I realized that I hurt people. I took advantage of people. I was living selfishly, like I had a whole world of condemnation about my past character. So it was really heavy for me. But there was a lot of grace showing up, and I was struggling to just let it in because I didn't feel good enough. And I remember even being in a relationship with, people that I loved, having friends who believed in me, or having a girlfriend who loved me and believed in me. And I was just like, my heart was not able to receive it. I remember being coached by a coach who asked me, Vince, what would you like to be acknowledged for at the end of my coaching session? And I was like, what? What do you mean? What would you like to be acknowledged for? So I listened to her question. She's a great coach. She was powerful coach. And I was like, I don't hear anything but crickets, literally like a cricket. There's nothing there. And it took me like 10 minutes or so to work with her to figure out what acknowledging something that was worth acknowledging in my life could be. And it wasn't just about conceptualizing that, it was about feeling it. I realized my heart was so close to receiving acknowledgement. There was an unworthiness of grace sensation. So the breakthrough here is realizing that grace is not earned. You don't have to earn it. You can let go of resisting it. You can let it in. It's actually received when you surrender. It doesn't depend on your past. It doesn't depend on your performance. It doesn't depend on what you did or didn't do. I know that sounds crazy because our whole world is wired around performance. We're rewarded when we perform well. We're punished when we perform terribly. I know. My whole life, I've seen this happening in my own life and other people's lives. It's what we do as humans to each other, and it's not a cool thing. It's actually something that it's not kind, but it's prevalent, and it's in our job system. It's in our school system. There's a benefit sometimes to that system, but there's consequences. We forget about grace as a result. So the last phase that we're going to explore is, the last phase that we're going to explore, 1 second. Oh my goodness. Let me get there for 1 second. I apologize. So I had skipped over the slide. So the last phase is the blueprint for building. Now, the blueprint for building is usually where we all want to start as a leader, as a coach, business builder, whatever it is we're doing. It isn't where we actually start. The blueprint for building comes after this moment of grace. And even what I'm doing today now, it came through a very dark night. And then I had to surrender deeply. I actually did a 5-day fast, which was a real extreme form of surrender. It was a beautiful experience. On the 4th day, I felt invigorated. Like I was raised to new life, literally. On the 3rd day, I felt powered up. On the 4th day, I started getting the insight. I started getting this new blueprint for building. So I literally just lived these phases out. I mean, I'm talking about 9 months ago, I got this experience of the blueprint for building. It was a download in my consciousness. It was like a whole new direction for my business and what I would be doing and how I would be serving. That was like, wow, I loved it. And I couldn't see it beforehand. So that's what happens in this phase, phase 7. This is where the vision starts to take form, and you can now act with clarity, because before it was confusion. You create these systems, offers, structures that actually align with who you've become. This is where you finally map out the program of your dreams, one that you really feel good about delivering, one that you know is going to make a difference for people, right? Or you really know that you can walk people through these stages of transformation. This is where your strategy shows up with clarity. You actually have a structure for fulfilling on it, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about that possibly at the end. We're getting late on here, but it actually feels right. It feels whole, feels complete inside of you. It's just this inner knowing. This is what I'm supposed to do. And we want that so desperately. We don't realize that in order to get to that level, to ascend to level 7, there's actually this descension that I mentioned at the beginning of this training that we first have to go through, right? We first descend down into this new valley to come up to the new mountaintop. We were on a mountaintop. We're up on this mountain over here. We want to get to this new mountain over here with a higher peak. And most of us want to go from here and we just want to hop over. But what ends up happening is we travel down through the valley to go up to the mountain. That's how it works in geographical format, right? We actually go down to go up. Well, life is like that. And most of us are afraid of that. But I was quoting Lao Tzu the other day, yesterday even, maybe I put the quote on my Facebook page, said that goodness, true goodness is like water, and water that seeks the lowest level, right? It nourishes all things. It harms nothing. Water. Right? Water just goes boom and it levels out. Water's not trying to clamber up the mountain. Mankind typically is trying to seek the highest peak. We don't like the pit. What I train my coaches and my leaders to do is choose the pit. Because when you choose the pit, you're choosing the valley. And when you choose the valley, you can actually get from the mountain that you're on over to the other mountain. If you won't choose this downward cycle, you can't have the next upward cycle. Because what happens is we get stuck here. We're resisting this downward cycle. This is where we start to medicate. We start to distract, avoid, sedate ourselves in some way, right? We pursue some other thing, or we just decide we're not capable or whatever it is. We make up a bunch of stories, meaning, and excuses, and we never make it to this mountaintop because we don't want to traverse that territory. We don't want to go down and up, but it's a must. And what makes it difficult is not knowing how to travel. So as a guide, as a leader myself, I help leaders, coaches navigate through these levels. And it starts with the body mind first, before we begin in the world out there. So the trap here is slipping back into the over efforting, right? We forgot about the grace that showed up previously in phase 6, and we start trying to now do the blueprint that we downloaded and received. We try to force that, and we forget about the grace. That can happen at this phase, right? We want to watch out for that. The breakthrough is to learn how to build from overflow, not from the compensational efforts and striving again. So I've been struggling with this myself recently, to be honest with you. I got the blueprint down, like I said, 9 months ago, and I've been working like crazy, but there's a lot of grace there. There's a lot of overflow. Like I'm producing with a lot more ease and freedom, and I have a perspective, and there's like a lot just being given me. Like it's a lot of like grace, I'm telling you. But I do find myself going into overcompensation, even still. And I find myself, wanting to force it faster. Know what I mean? And the wisdom here, even for me, which I'm taking and drinking in, is to surrender and relax back into it. Sometimes it's just sitting on my meditation pillow, which is right down there in front, next to that guitar. I just sit down there and I just relax and I let go, and I put an 11-minute, 11-second timer, and I just be. And we're actually going to do that together now. And this is one of my longer live streams, probably my longest live stream yet here on YouTube. Remember this before we go into the embodiment activation. These are not linear steps all the time necessarily. They're more like spiritual cycles, okay? So it's not like you're going to go from phase 1 or level 1 to level 5 or to phase 7, right? And that's it. You achieve level 5, achieve phase 7, and now you're there for good. It does not work like that at all. It just doesn't. So because it doesn't work like that, we need to understand that it's cyclical, and we're going to move through these phases at different times in our life. That's why I'm teaching them. That's why you get to learn them. That's why you get to learn the traps in each phase, and you get to understand how to break through, because they're going to show up multiple times in your life. And if you're prepared to face them and feel them and embrace them and yourself and heal whatever there needs to be made whole, then you can break free and live leadership powerfully. Remember, leadership is a way of being. It's not a way of doing. The doing flows from the being. The being is the result of the inner exploration, the work within, the transformation at the core level, which is the perceptual level. Your perception changes, who you are fundamentally has changed. And that's character that now is the leader. You will do naturally what is right and good as a leader when your character is right and good within. And so for me, it's always, as my friend Kevin Walton once said years ago, internal cause, external effect. Internal cause, external effect. The inner begets the outer. The inner begets the outer. Yeah? Right on. So let's get into this embodied activation experience. I'm going to invite you to get into a comfortable position. Sitting upright is ideal, but it's possible to lay down if you must. I prefer an upright position with spine straight. And let's just reach up to the sky for a moment. Hands up in the air. Good. Open the arms out wide, pressing the fingers out. Good. And shoulders back. Open up the chest. We're going to get into our body a little bit. Just open up the body, and we're going to just lean to the right a little bit. Open up the neck and lean a little bit more. Let the rib cage open up. It's good to get some space in the body. This has been a long training. Good. Go into the other side if you didn't do that yet. Right? And then if you want to twist a little bit, good. And then just shake your body out. Take a few breaths in, nose in, mouth out, nose in, mouth out, nose in, mouth out. Good. Nose in and hold. Hold that breath in, relax the body, and swallow your saliva and feel the saliva running down to the belly. Good. Just feel that happening. Lips into a pinhole and slowly exhale, gently, gently exhaling. Good. Just take a moment to be with your body, be with your emotions, be with your thoughts, whatever's present. Let's take a few moments to digest everything that we just experienced. Relax, release whatever you may be holding anywhere in the body as best you can. Be gentle, loving, compassionate with yourself if you would like. Bring your right hand to your heart, right on your chest, heart, solar plexus. Left hand to your lower abdomen. Feel that connection with your body for a moment. Just be aware of whatever you're aware of. Feel the hand over your heart. Maybe feel into the heart. Feel the hand over your lower abdomen. Feel into the lower abdomen. Honoring your body, loving into your body with your own hands. If you can, if you're willing, let a smile come to your face. And can you feel a moment of love for you? A moment of your own self-worthiness? Simply because you are, not because you do anything, but just because you are. Can you be in this moment enough? Can you just be enough right now within yourself? Can you grant yourself being enough? And can you be aware of your thoughts, emotions, and feelings just as they are, and be the awareness that is aware of whatever thoughts, emotions, and feelings are present? Just take a moment to be with that. Good. We're going to explore intimately now. I invite you to just be with the words, see how they guide you, see what shows up. Allow my word to guide you within, to help you explore, to release, to transform, and alter your perception, to create more freedom, to create more flow, to create more aliveness within you. Let's navigate through and explore the 5 misperceptions briefly. Misperception number 1, see where this might show up for you. Thinking leadership means control. Where have you thought that you needed to be in control? Where have you been trying to dominate everything in your life in order to succeed? And what would it be like if you were to lead and influence through your presence? Not with force. Imagine, feel, explore as best you can. There's no wrong way to be with any of this. If something shows up, wonderful. If nothing shows up, wonderful. Just being in this process alone is opening up space within you. The questions will create an access, even if nothing shows up immediately. So just be gentle and gracious with yourself and explore misperception number 2, that leaders have all the answers. Have you thought as a leader you need to have all the answers? Have you felt that pressure? Can you welcome that, explore that? Are you willing to let that go? What would it be like if you were to ask better questions, stay open, interested and curious about people, to develop a better understanding on how to lead in a way that's effective with others? Good. And we'll look at misperception number 3. Leadership is about status. Where have you thought leadership is about what you have, what you own, how good you look, right? What your image is like in the world? I remember starting my coaching company afresh in 2020, late 2019, and I was creating videos. I looked awful. I had my beard grown out and it grows terrible. And Hair was all funky and I was crying and vulnerable and people were just so connecting with me. And I was so surprised, but I just came out and I didn't think I looked good at all. And yet I was so connecting. My status was, I didn't have any money at the time. My relationship was in turmoil and people were coming to join my group because I was simply telling the truth. So what if real leadership was about service instead of status for you? What would that look like? What would that feel like in your life right now? Remember, you're exploring your perception and you're making shifts in your perception by your own choice. Good. Welcome that in. Misperception number 4, we'll look at the idea that leaders are fearless. Have you thought this? Have you held yourself to a standard that you're supposed to be fearless? Maybe you held other leaders to that standard. Can you release yourself from this misperception and maybe see courage is really about choosing to maintain alignment with your purpose, even in the presence of fear, by welcoming the fear with love and compassion. Instead of resisting the fear, instead of making the fear wrong, welcoming it with love and compassion. Good. And then we'll explore the last misperception, number 5, thinking leadership is natural charisma. It's something people are born with, and they have to be charismatic. Have you thought that? Have you felt that? Have you put this judgment against yourself that maybe you're not passionate enough or energized enough? What about considering and reflecting, having this new perspective that leadership is really about character, who you are on the inside, your integrity, your values, your sense of purpose, your commitment to serving others. It's not really about how you perform as a charismatic leader or some kind of celebrity personality that you think has all the right energy. What if it's just you being you and being valued for you being you? Whatever you were made to be, authentically, genuinely. How does that feel? Take a breath in. Let's let that out. And just let all that go and settle. Beautiful. We'll look at the 5 levels of leadership. Where has the reactor shown up? Where you feel like life is happening to you, where you're reacting emotionally, blaming other people, circumstances, avoiding responsibility. Just be honest with yourself. Tell the truth to you. Nobody's watching. Be honest with yourself and love what you find. This is the secret to inner freedom. Tell the truth to yourself. It's okay if you've been blaming, avoiding responsibility, being emotionally reactive. It's okay. Just own up for that. And don't punish yourself for that. Can you notice your emotional reactions, not judge them, and just be aware of whatever's there, because awareness is the first step out of a reactivity. Awareness is the first step out of reactivity. Just welcoming and allowing it. Good. And then level 2 is the survivor. Right? This is where we begin to take some responsibility. We're taking action, but the action's still fueled by fear. It's fueled by scarcity, by over-efforting. Can you welcome this part of you? How you've been experiencing this, where you've been experiencing this? It's okay. Be honest and loving with yourself. Be gentle. Can you learn to rest and relax right now without any guilt? And if there is any guilt, because you're not doing enough, can you welcome that guilt? Can you recognize the fear underneath your drive? And also, what would it feel like if you were leading from fulfillment, stability internally? rather than survival. It's important to get a sense of that. What if you're already full enough and it's from the fullness you begin to lead? We're going to start looking at that a little bit more as we look at the level 3, the initiator. It's where you begin to set vision and goals. You move intentionally. You're taking ownership of the path to a degree, but the ego may still be driving outcomes, right? Taking action a little bit more powerfully, less reactively, not in the survivor state as much, but still driven from a bit of fear, still attached to certain outcomes. What are the outcomes that you're attached to right now? Could it be a certain amount of money, certain amount of people that you're working with, teaching or leading? Maybe it's the number of followers you have, number of sales about a course or product. Listen, it's okay. It's okay to have all of these concerns. I've had all of these concerns even up till this very day. These are all part of my own experience. You're not alone. And together we're welcoming whatever's present, whatever attachments we have, whatever we think should be that isn't, whatever we think that shouldn't be that is. And we're going to detach from the outcome right now. We're going to let go. We can choose to let go. What does it feel like to release the attachment? To just continually start from this inner world space of openness, refocus on our purpose and the process, let the vision become clearer, and it's going to be more sustainable, what we see the future being when we be with the image of the future as if it's already done. Good. Feel that in your body as best you can. We're going to look at level 4, the transformer. It's where you integrate the past wounds that you felt. So has there been some pain? We're going to turn the wounds into wisdom. Can you welcome the pain? What does it feel like to just be with the pain? This is going to allow you to lead with compassion. First yourself. You got to be vulnerable internally and open. You got to let your wounding be seen by the awareness that you really are. And this awareness is always compassionate. It's always loving. Good. And this is conscious presence with you. Whatever pain you felt, it's valid of receiving love and attention right now. What you went through, how you've been hurt, it's important to acknowledge those hurts. This is how we begin to transcend. This is how we create a breakthrough, not from avoiding, but by descending into the inner realm that we've been running from. And we welcome the pain at the bottom of it all with love and with compassion. It's all worthy of our love. It's all valid. Whatever's felt, whatever thoughts are there about it, whatever fear is there is all valid. We're not making any of that wrong. Beautiful. That feels really good. Ah, yes, good. Now level 5, the last level, is the radiant leader. This is where we're embodying leadership as a way of being. So what does it feel like to radiate us with a sense of trust? Do your best to explore this. There's no wrong way, again, to be with this. What does it feel like to be totally clear? And also to have humility. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay for me to ask for help. It's okay for me to ask for support. It's okay for me to pause and receive. It's okay for me to follow my purpose. This is where your presence will transform the room that you're in. So just be this presence for a moment. Imagine, sense, feel it. Ooh, feels really good. There's a fullness of being. Welcome that as best you can. The fullness of being what you really are. This is where you stop trying to lead and leading just unfolds through you. You are the invitation that others are rising in response to. They hear the invitation, they feel the invitation, and they come. They come to this space that you are, the being, a radiant leader. Beautiful. Beautiful. Good. Take a deep breath through the nose in. Feel that radiant leader. And mouth out. Exhale. Nose in. Charge up the radiant leader within. So good. Mouth out. Good. Nose in. Mouth out. Take your biggest breath yet through the nose in and hold at the top. Good. Hold that breath in. Let your lungs be filled. You're holding your breath gently with minimal effort. You're going to relax the head, the face, the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, chest, belly, back. Just drop everything. Let go, but hold the breath. Swallow your saliva. Imagine your saliva is that seed of everything we just allowed in. And that seed is faith, it's love, it's confidence, it's trust, it's whatever you need. Make your lips into a pinhole. Slowly exhale. This is where you relax and the seed really takes root. And it gets watered. And the leader within, this radiant, vibrant, divinely empowered leader, comes alive. Take a moment to simply be with that, feel that, allow that. Good. Awesome. So notice that you feel a particular way and just welcome that feeling. Allow yourself to have this way of being for a moment in the silence, in the stillness. There is fullness. There is power. There is peace. There is presence. There is thanksgiving. There's rest. And there is so much grace here. Life being given to you freely, abundantly, and richly. Let that in. And you can always pause and re-enter this kind of experience within. So thank you for allowing me to share this with you. You can open your eyes if your eyes are closed and just notice how it feels, how wonderful it is. So you don't really need motivation externally. You really need to experience yourself as you really are within. This mirroring of invincible leadership that's in you. And you need a map, of course. And we covered 3 different maps of the territory. There were the 5 misperceptions that are important. Those are like pitfalls. Then there were the 5 levels of leadership, which include some more possible pitfalls, but also how to break through and how to transcend each level of leadership. And then there were the 7 phases of leadership, which give you even more detail about how to progress on the path of leadership successfully. And so if you like, I've made a workbook of all of this material and a bit more with some reflection questions and other things that you can use. And normally it's $22 on the site, but I've created a coupon code just for the people who are present on the live. If you want to make a purchase, it's 50% off. And the coupon code is LEAD NOW, and I'll drop that in to the chat, and the link is in the chat. So if you're interested, no pressure. I'll put the link to the leadership workbook. It'll be $22 after tonight. I'll put that in the description also later, but here's the coupon code. If you liked what you experienced and you want to get a download of all the material and more, lots of questions that you can answer and explore, go more within your own experience, take more time around all this, then this will just add to it. It will power up your leadership. It's there. So I appreciate this opportunity to be with you, to serve, to guide, and to lead through this process. It's a blessing and a delight to me. So if there's any questions about anything here, please drop them in the comments. Even if you're watching a replay, drop it in the comments. I'll do my best to come back and answer. You're not alone. Other people may answer as well. As I start doing more of these live streams, doing more of these videos, you'll get a chance to let me get to know you by commenting and sharing yourself and what's going on in your world, who you are, what's going on. I love connection. I want to know where you're at, how I can serve you. Also, any requests for support in any particular area of coaching or leadership. I've been coaching since 2013 professionally, and I am committed to empowering leaders and coaches who are committed to serving other people. That's my calling, to power up those who are committed to powering up others. Simple. So my original mantra was empowerment, life expansion for humanity worldwide. And so that is being lived out today in all the ways that I get to serve my clients now through these YouTube videos that I get to create that I'm so excited to start producing more of. And I would love to hear from you on what it is you need, what you're looking for, and how I can best serve you, because that's what matters most, right? What's going to get you to the next level. I'm Vince. I appreciate this opportunity. Like I said, bless you, lots of grace to you, and I look forward to seeing you next live stream or in the next video. Take care and blessings your way.